What's up, everyone? Andre here, along with Jake and Tom, to discuss the news that Nintendo confirmed, as speculated or as expected, they're not going to be at E3 2023. So that is just a few months away at this point. For some now, it may not matter with Nintendo not being there. And we wanted to discuss like what this means. Does it matter that they're there or that they're not going to be there? Does this impact the future of E3? We're going to discuss it all. Chat, we want to know what you think as well. Before we get into it, first of all, let us know how we all sound. So let's do a quick sound check. Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you very much. And I was hoping that we could before we even get things rolling, just the top of this stream, do a poll and see if Chow Chat feels about Nintendo skipping E3. You know what I mean? Feels fine, feels bad, feels disgusted. I don't know. I don't, but I'd like to see at the top, and then I want to see maybe if we can address these feelings. But yeah, doing well.
All right,
I hope we sound good.
There is a poll in the chat right now. Let us know, chat, if Nintendo's skipping E3, does it feel good, man? Does it feel bad, man? Or feels whatever, man? We want. Tom, how are you doing? As I caught you mid-sip in your coffee.
Yeah, go. No, doing well. It's I don't know. I felt like E3 might have a chance of coming back, but maybe it just needs more time to cook. I guess we'll get into that.
Yeah,
I hope everyone's having a great day otherwise.
Yeah, there's a few angles to this we can discuss. So let's start off real quick. Chat wants to let us know how we sound, but I want to start off with what Nintendo actually says. This is in the message to, I believe it was VentureBeat. Nintendo said, we approach our involvement in any event on a case-by-case basis, and are always considering various ways to engage with our fans. Since this year's E3 show didn't fit into our plans, we have made the decision to not participate. However, we have been and continue to be a strong supporter of the ESA and E3. So that is basically the most diplomatic response a company could give. It's like, yeah, we appreciate the organization. It just didn't fit into our plans this year. Without saying definitively one way or the not that, whether it affects future plans. So really, it's a nothing statement, but, generous to the ESA and E3 in general. But basically they're saying, yeah, we're not going to be there this year because it just didn't fit into our plans. So my question to you, Jake, is what does that mean? Break that down. What does that mean that it doesn't fit in Nintendo's plans for this year?
I think it means that Nintendo says in that statement that we have been and continue to be a strong supporter of the ESA and E3. And what this statement means is that they are liars, okay? because the fact of the matter is Nintendo is skipping E3 not because they are huge supporters of the ESA and want it to succeed. They are skipping E3 because it doesn't suit them. It doesn't directly benefit them according to their analytics and their vision for the next year. And I think to put that in this statement is insane. Because if you say this about literally anything else, we're huge supporters. That's why we basically invented the digital showcase. That's why we basically kicked off people not coming to this event. What does it mean we're huge supporters? That's absolutely insane. I think if they were true to this statement, if they were huge supporters of this, they would show up, give people a reason to be there, even if it wasn't their strongest year, even if we would have a discussion about how Nintendo had a really weak E3, because that's what it means to support the event. To give gamers something like Comic-Con, something like all of these PAXs, these other events, probably that ReedPop runs, is to support them unconditionally if you believe they are good for the culture. If they are good for this consumer base that you are trying to serve with an event like E3. And I think what this statement says is that we are only interested in E3 if we can make the dollar bills make sense. It's not about the culture. And for that reason, boo.
Would it make more sense if the cents were making dollar bills? I don't know what the inverse I don't know if I'm making sense at this point. Tom.
Yeah, it's like inflation coming into effect.
Exactly. What's your read on this, Tom?
It sounds like Nintendo supports the organization, maybe not for its shows, but maybe for its ability to do lobbying and stuff. Like that's what the ESA, I guess they're like, okay, we're with you on that end. It's like the show, I feel that Nintendo is just not willing to change back to how it was. You are right, Jake. Like they made the digital showcase. They're okay to go to that route now. I mean, was it Direct was in July last year, so and they normally reveal more for the second half of the year. They have not done that this year. Like there's nothing really after Pikmin 4. So in this case, it is like, they don't want to completely kick E3 while it's down, but at the same time, they are basically saying like, not this time, folks. And they're saying case by case, but it's really moving on. Like they're almost moving on from E3, and if this year goes well again, there's not really much incentive for Nintendo to go back.
But I feel like we're already framing their presence as E3 as okay, like thinking about announcements, thinking about like the typical way that we have come to think of what we get out of E3 as a consumer. Yeah. And I feel like you got ReedPop running this event, who runs other in-person events.
Like PAX.
Wouldn't it be enough to have Nintendo have a booth, have some exclusive Nintendo merch for their E3 thing, maybe some special amiibo, maybe you can come in, use your app, get access to a special Nintendo Switch Online icon? Like, would that not be enough? I feel like there are so many ways that they could approach this and really put truth to power of being supporters. Because then I would be like, oh man, Nintendo does believe in E3. Nintendo actually is like trying to make something happen here, trying to cultivate a groundswell thing going on here. Hey, they've got these partnerships with other groups that are running video game tournaments, things for like Smash, Mario Kart. Why don't you just run one of these puppies at E3? Like, there are so many things you could do. And for them to say, no, we're going to have no presence, but we love you. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it.
There's a lot. There's like, they're trying to push things like check-ins into stores now in Japan, I guess. That's the thing coming up to get points and stuff. Like, there's lots of little things they could do. And even selling merch. You could sell so much merch at a show, but maybe that doesn't even come close to the cost of preparing one of these things. But you're right, like even showing other demos of games, but they're maybe seeing the value of like, what's just the value of having a demo for everyone versus having the experience in person running a booth.
Right.
Yeah, there's a few angles to this. I mean, there's the consumer side of things, there's the Nintendo side of things. It's interesting. So kind of to Jake's point, like, I mean, at the end of the day, every for-profit corporation is only going to make the decision that they think gets them the most money. So it doesn't really matter how much Nintendo says they support the ESA or not, or how much they truly believe that. If at the end of the day they don't think it's going to raise revenue enough to offset the cost and the time it takes to do E3, they're not going to do it. And I think that's the case we find ourselves in, at least in particular this year, especially with Tears of the Kingdom coming out, the month before? That is, if not their biggest game of the year, one of two. That's definitely one of the biggest ones. And I think having that before E3 kind of sealed the fate for E3 this year. But in addition to that, I think there's more layers to it. Because we've now effectively, I've seen Chad mention Nintendo's been missing from E3 for years. That's not entirely true, because I had to look this up because I completely forgot. E3 did happen in 2021 as a virtual event. And Nintendo actually was there in terms of branding and online presence. So they have been there every E3 that, I believe, so every E3 that has had, being the one since the cancellation, since they were canceled with the pandemic in 2020 and 2022, Nintendo's been there. So them skipping it is a big deal. And I think might speak to a potentially broader point, which we won't know for sure until next year or not, is maybe Nintendo just doesn't think they need E3s anymore. Like, now that they've had 3 years with no E3 show effectively, again, 2021 barely counts, 3 years of no E3 effectively as an in-person event, and Nintendo sales seemingly not suffering as a result for it, what's the incentive to go to E3? Clearly, some companies think there is incentive still. Ubisoft confirmed they'll be there with a large presence, evidently, whatever that amounts to. But I think for Nintendo, I think they may be realizing we don't need it. It could mean one of two things: we don't need it, or we just don't have the games for it. And I think that's a fear that a lot of people have, is maybe Nintendo has nothing else this year. Like, there have been rumblings from, like, VGC, I think, and others, that there are no heavy hitters coming, planned for the Switch beyond Zelda.
A third point is maybe Nintendo doesn't agree with E3's vision from ReedPop, or didn't have that vision in time to plan for it, too, so.
Yeah. That's a good point. I kind of feel like these E3 plans do happen super far in advance. And I think there was even a statement from ReedPop that was like, or maybe this was like a leaked internal email, forgive me, sweet ReedPop. But it was something along the lines of like, yeah, this is kind of like a beta E3 this year. And they're kind of expecting to be able to really kind of wrap their minds around it, I think, in the following years. But again, a company like Nintendo that has so much experience running these kinds of events, I think the thing that I want from them is to re-envision E3. And if there is a way to make it make sense, and if the answer to that question is like spending less dollar bills, like will people really be upset if Nintendo shows up to an E3 and doesn't have like a theme park-esque set built that cost like $1 million to make? Like is that really that huge of a thing? Would it be so wrong if they had kind of like a bare bones E3 setup and there weren't even a lot of big announcements or things, but they did give you access to some developers or figureheads, just like people to talk to, get interviews with on the floor, get some I don't know. I think there are ways of doing it that would be really cool and interesting. And I kind of feel this is one of those situations where Nintendo is at the top of the mountain. You know, they are so in the black. They're making so much money that it's like why we did this without you, E3. Like, why would we even try, you know? And then it begs the question of like, okay, now next year we've got our sweet new Nintendo console. Do we see Nintendo run their little legs back to E3 to be like, well, this is actually a good time to get a bunch of people in one room to get hands on this new console? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
They could have only a certain amount of resources, right? And
yeah,
planning things, maybe if they are getting ready for later on, maybe they need that time. Like sometimes, despite how much money a company can make, there's only so much they can do with the people they have to plan for these events. So maybe they think they can't just have a small booth at E3 and that it has to be grandiose. That could be one of the things too, just in their minds to make a splash, even without Sony and Microsoft there.
They want to win. They want to be big dogs. Yeah.
And Nintendo, has generally been good at that. It seemed to be the one. I think there have even been reports after of like Nintendo being the one to get the most tweets and whatever else from E3 for the last at least few E3s that there have been. Because they also have they don't have just their E3 Direct. They also have a Treehouse that runs for I think basically the entirety of the 3-day show, the Treehouse Live segment. But yeah, I guess it's yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, I think was it Tom that brought up the point, like they may be just sitting out just to see how things shake out this year, whether especially with the new management. Even though ReedPop also handles PAX, I believe, and Nintendo's at PAX this year, as we now know. And it's also too. There's so many more conventions now, like with Gamescom, PAXs. Like, yeah, it just may have been timing wise. It didn't make sense with Tears of the Kingdom already being out, and whatever else. I don't know. I guess from the fan perspective. So real quick, we have our poll. Chat over half of the chat, 53% says it feels whatever, man. It seems like they just don't care. 13% says feels good, so they're actively happy Nintendo's not E3, and 34% feels bad. And I think if Joey were here, he would definitely be on the 34% side. I know he's a big fan of E3. Like he loves what it means for like it's just an exciting week. I think where you have all kinds of presents, effectively in the form of announcements or whatever. I think it's one that's been following the industry for so long. Like, I just don't care. Because it doesn't matter. Because the things are going to get announced one way or the other. Like, it doesn't matter whether it happens at E3 or not. All that matters is the timing of it. But eventually, everything that would have been E3 will be announced anyway. I think it more means, maybe the thing that, maybe what speaks more to, and chat can correct me, but to the 34% who says it feels bad, I think the fear might be more that they just don't have anything to show. Like, maybe there is nothing exciting after Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 isn't this year. Maybe, maybe there is little else beyond Pikmin as well, and, that doesn't warrant showing up at E3 for. And I think that is a greater fear. Like, not necessarily them not being at E3, but more what that represents.
Yeah, and that's kind of brings me back to, like, just re-envisioning something else for E3, because I feel like Nintendo could do any number of things if they were interested in kind of cultivating this on the ground cultural thing of like giving people, like, for the same reason that Comic-Con does what Comic-Con does. It's not necessarily for the announcements. how cool would it be if, I think we would all be excited about this, if Nintendo said, hey, we're actually not focusing on game announcements at this E3, but our big thing is going to be behind the scenes of the Mario movie.
Yeah.
That would be cool. You know what I mean? And I feel like they have so many things like that at their disposal. But I guess my question now, based on what you just said, Andre, is do we feel like a lot of this, it doesn't matter that they're skipping E3, is because this does not take Nintendo out of the running of doing their own thing around E3 time? Is that what people are kind of holding on to, you think?
I think so. I mean, even if they skip a summer direct entirely, there's going to be one in the fall probably, right? So it's it wouldn't even be that far behind. I mean, I think with the increased focus on online events, especially in the era of the pandemic, I feel like it really kind of lessens the need of these in-person events now. The central, like, once a year annual events that may not even properly tie into release schedules, such as, again, with Tears of the Kingdom this year. And especially, too, because to the average consumer, I feel like, and again, chat, let me know if I'm off base here, I feel like it doesn't matter much for them. Like, they're not, most of them aren't at E3. So, like, the only benefit for them are the live shows, you know, and maybe press impressions of these games from the show, which I honestly don't even know how much that matters these days. Like, I feel like people are more excited for the announcements and, you know, watching people be able to play these games when they're actually out rather than just these short demos of the show. Again, as one that covers the industry, I could be off base what people actually want from it, but I feel like it just doesn't matter. Like, the directs, like, a direct tends to contain almost everything you need within that 40-minute period, and that's, you know, to get you excited at least and interested in what's coming up. And outside of that, everything else is just gravy, and I don't know how important that actually is. So I think, to your point, like, not being at E3 doesn't mean there won't be a direct, and that will have everything that would have been E3 anyway, so but for the most part.
It definitely makes me wonder too about the office that was closed. That is the oh god,
San Francisco Nintendo
Thank
office.
you, Tom. Thank you.
Yes.
I think about like Treehouse Live, I feel like was such a universally positively received thing.
Yeah.
That I wonder internally how they feel about that, but I also wonder if maybe the energy behind Treehouse Live, the enthusiasm behind it, just doesn't exist anymore. Like, literally is not there anymore. Maybe there's nobody pushing for that anymore.
Sure, they care about it a lot, but maybe they think there's more value in streamers and different personalities trying the games than Nintendo themselves.
Sure. I mean, and we actually did a Treehouse towards the in the fall of last year, if you remember, for Harvestella.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that didn't go well. So I don't.
Yeah, well, that was more. I think a problem of just the content rather than
But they could still happen.
Exactly. No, it still could. There's nothing. I mean, yeah, they've done live Treehouse Lives outside of E3 before, so you don't need E3 for that either. Electric Video Gamer says the main thing I liked about E3 was that everyone's guaranteed to show something there, and you knew that ahead of time. I liked having essentially a holiday that was known every year. That's a good point. But the problem is, like, even that hasn't been consistently true. Sony's been missing from E3 for years now at this point. And now with Nintendo not being there, has Microsoft confirmed whether they'll be there or not? Do we know?
They're kind of different because Microsoft owns that building right beside
it's adjacent,
E3.
yeah.
So in the past, like, they were at the show, but we didn't actually get to see them because they're in that building. So,
and Microsoft's funny too, because there's this thing that I'm kind of trying to describe of like investing in the community and investing in like the cultural video game movement, that I think because they are kind of financially in a different position when compared to Sony and Nintendo, they are heavily interested in doing. They're also an American company. So we see them doing things all the time where like Microsoft is going to come out big bat being like, oh yeah, E3, we love E3. Those other guys, not like us, because we're for the gamers, baby. And and I get why they do that, but I think there is also just something almost nice about that like if we did have that, and this is the thing, I understand that we're talking about capitalist enterprise, so it's hard to square this circle, but I do think there is a way of like meeting in the middle and trying to have some kind of groundswell core gamer, we're here for you, we are feeding those people and also making it make sense for you on the business end, that I think Nintendo specifically is probably the least interested in out of the big three.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, Nintendo's always kind of gone to the beat of their own drum anyway, and they're also in many ways like a kind of conservative company too, right? Like they tend to be, they're really not all that extravagant if they don't have to be. And I think if E3 is, I don't know how much an expense it compares to like their typical marketing budgets, but I do remember reading articles about having some of those those booths, like the bigger ones in particular, can be pretty expensive, and that's not even accounting. That's just a space. That's not even accounting for all the custom things you have to have built for it. The having demos prepared for the show, and I think also too is something Nintendo's gone better at. I think is managing expectations, because sometimes when you announce a direct, like expectations just go nuts. And I was just thinking now how well received the previous direct was. Had that been like an E3 event, I think it would have been destroyed. I think people have hated that thing, and maybe not hated. They've been disappointed by it. And I think not having, I think just how they positioned it definitely helped with its reception. Like, hey, this game we just announced, being Metroid, it's out right now. You couldn't. That wouldn't really work for E3. I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was just gonna say limits their shadow drop capabilities, kind of.
I mean, actually, you know what? I the framework of what they had could be awesome for an E3 like event, though. Like, I don't think the specific announcements would have been great for E3, but imagine an event in which they do announce new games, and by the way, the demo that people are playing on the show floor, hey, you can download that right now on your Nintendo Switch. Like,
dude, I am shocked that is not the norm way more frequently. This like demo you can play right now, it exists. You can play it at home. It is so weird to me that like never caught on. I thought that was like always such an obvious step.
Yep, that's what I always wanted. Always wanted that shows play demo, like Xbox having demos out. I think one thing is that people can maybe data mine them, so they have to be careful.
I think that's a factor too, Tom.
That's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
It's funny to me too, because I feel like the thing, and maybe I'm different from you all, what I want least in this world is to be in a crowded theater demoing a video game with the same controller everyone else is touching. There are few experiences I want less than that. So if we could have that at home, I'd feel so much better. Yeah.
They wipe it down now, Jake.
It's not enough. It's not enough.
I know. Black Trife had a good point real quick. Tokyo Game Show doesn't have Nintendo, and they learned about a game there. So Nintendo can kind of have announcements outside the Direct. But yeah, Nintendo in their own homeland doesn't go to Tokyo Game Show. They had Space World. I think they have Nintendo Live now. They don't always put it. They do take into consideration the time of these shows.
Right.
And I like that too, because I feel like Nintendo could still hold true to this statement. They're not, though. But if they were like, yeah, we support E3, which is why the week of E3, we're going to be running E3 sales. We're going to be running E3 promotions. Maybe we will put out a little demo or something. Like, you don't even have to be there. You don't even have to be there. Just call something E3. And that's fun. There's a level of fun to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more about, like, what benefit does E3 give Nintendo that they just can't do themselves? And I feel like there almost isn't one. I mean, I guess there's more than just the marketing angle. There's the fact that, stores are able to try out the games and see what they may want to, get more units of.
Sure.
I don't know how important that is, considering the last 3 years of not having that either. It's just, I feel like there's almost no benefit, like no meaningful benefit of having a physical presence at E3 that they can't accomplish now with a direct on their own terms, without having to involve a third party, organization. I don't know. And I guess too also, like for me, they turned into more of a consumer event over the last few years, for better or worse, where people can now pay to go to the show. And chat, have any of you been to E3? I would love to know your impressions of this. Like, I want to know, like, what did you think if you were at E3? Because most people can't go to E3. I'm wondering, did you even enjoy it being there yourself? Because, like, for me, who I've been covering E3 for over 20 years now, and Tom, you've been even more E3s than I have, I think, like a handful more. Like, I don't even like playing games there that much, Like, I love playing games, but it's just not that fun to stand there playing a limited demo while someone's watching over your shoulder, telling you what you can or can't do in this game.
Yeah.
I loved going to E3s earlier on, but E3 declined. Kind of went down like this towards the end of the years. And even if there was another one when the pandemic happened, I might not have gone. Any booth that has like a couch or a seat, you're like, oh, this is amazing to sit down and relax and actually play a game. You're there's things, people yelling at you. You can't really hear most of them. So when I play it later at home, I'm like, wow, this is a totally different experience. You can miss a lot at E3 about the impression of a game, and also things like waiting in line a long time, or hopefully at Nintendo's booth, the lines got so crazy that you might be waiting all day to play Breath of the Wild, let's say, and then the line gets capped. So, like, that's a problem with Nintendo there. They're so popular that you can miss out on playing it.
Can you imagine buying a several $100 ticket or whatever it costs to, like, wait in line for the entire day to play a 20-minute demo of one game? It's hard. I feel like that's a hard thing to justify. Real quick.
I have a pretty, please.
No, please continue.
I have a pretty hard personal rule of never waiting in line if I can help it.
Yes.
So I don't wait in line.
Oh, but, you're gonna hate Super Nintendo World then.
That's tough. I'm gonna go dressed as Wario, and they'll think I'm just part of the whole. But I guess the thing to me is, like, I'm asking myself this question. I'm like, what is the benefit? Why go all out at a conference like this? And I keep coming back to Comic-Con, and I'm like, there's a reason that these events are so successful. I think part of it is that they are extremely successful for the cities that they take place in. They just bring in like hundreds of millions of dollars to the local economy. If you've ever been to a Comic-Con or been in a city that has one, you know, the week of, all the restaurants and bars or everything are like running events. It's like a whole community thing. And I have to imagine, I have friends that, like, I cannot believe have been drawn into Comic-Con and have been like, you know what? I'm actually going to go because I'm going to cosplay. I'm going to do this thing. And I think it does do something for that community that brings people in. And I guess what I'm building to with all of this is I wonder if there is a level of investment that Nintendo could achieve, you know, that if Nintendo were to put into E3 to make it an event like that, where it is like, okay, not only are we at E3, we're running stuff with people in this area, this highly populated, everybody's traveling, everybody's here to do like Nintendo events at like different restaurants. We've got tournaments going. We've got this going on over there, this going on over there. And it's something that people, the normies, hear about. Right. And they go, what's going on Friday? Mario is showing up to Dave & Buster's? That's what the heck? And it's like, there, you know, something's going on there. And I wonder if it just takes the right person to be like, this is my literal job, is I am going to create a marketplace where there is not one right now. And I honestly think that there is an opportunity there. I also think people should be paying Nintendo to do this. Because it would benefit them. I genuinely think that there's, like, could the city of Los Angeles, like, throw Nintendo a few dollars to make
show up at E3.
These things happen.
Yeah.
These things, like, you know what I mean? To, like, yeah, so I don't know. I think there's something there that is currently not being mined for dollar bills.
You know what? I think it's an interesting point. I think the closest we've seen to that, actually, so it's almost, you're almost thinking that, if I read what you're saying correctly, it's almost like E3 needs to go even more consumer focused. Like, it's too press based right now. They need to go more enthusiast, like PAX, for instance. And I think the closest we've seen to this from Nintendo at E3 would be the Smash Invitationals. Like, those, I think, did a really good job of incorporated the fan base and like giving more people access to the game early and just building a really great scene around this one game where people are playing and engaging with it super early. You have, like, you know, top competitors at Smash competing in this new game that no one knows how to play yet compared to the others, and that's really exciting. So yeah, you might be onto something that maybe that's why they brought in, is it ReedPop, bringing them on board for this. They have experience running, you know, multiple conventions like this, and maybe they are trying to aim it more consumer focused, and that might be the way to go, even if, you know, as press, you often hear from them like, oh, it sucks because it's harder to do your job. And yes, that is fair, but at the same time, whatever, deal with it. You know, like, it's
agreed. You're getting paid either way, my man. whereas like these human beings, I want people to be there because they freaking want to be there.
That's a good point.
And I really like the Smash Invitational. That actually
was cool.
was unique. It was uniquely very interesting and fun to watch. Yeah, man. E3, there's a lot of potential there. Nintendo, if you're watching, I'm ready.
Real quick, speaking of being at E3, we have a comment from Mark Barber who said, "I've been, though as a developer, I've even run into you guys, Andre and Tom, at least a few times in the Nintendo booth." That's awesome. That's so great to hear from you, Mark. So,
hello, Mark.
Avoided me, obviously. They were like, I can't talk to Jake.
That's why we need to bring, well, we'll ignore the fact that not only has there not been an E3, they didn't even work here. Oh, I guess he would have been here for the last E3 had there been one. But, point is, Mark, if we're ever at another E3 and to everyone, feel free to stop us. Always love chatting with people. So it's always, that is one, actually that's the thing I miss most about E3 is just running into people, meeting developers, fans. Like it had a good energy to it. The worst thing was that, we had work to do, so there wasn't more time to invest into that. And Mark says, "Sorry, Jake, I don't think you're with GX yet." See, there you go, Mark.
No. Well, listen, Mark, if you see me at Target, feel free. I'm just doing my own thing. It actually occurs to me now that I think a company that's already kind of doing events really well that I think Nintendo could copy is the Pokemon company.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think with their worlds and the separate and all the different invitationals and a lot of different Northeast or whatever it was where I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, the local college would host a huge Pokemon tournament every however many years, and I was like, well, this is kind of sick. And it was this kind of thing that pulled people in. And I people would hear about it and be like, hey, this Pokemon thing's going on. You want to go check that out? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll go see Pikachu. So I don't know.
Pokemon Company, no, that's a great point. Pokemon Company feels like an unhinged Nintendo. If Nintendo had a few drinks, that's what Pokemon Company would be. Pokemon Company is not afraid to step outside their comfort zone, right? They're always trying new things, doing new events. They have new mobile games coming out constantly. And I feel like, that's, Nintendo just tends to be more conservative in general, separate from Pokemon, of course. And I think that might not be a bad idea for them to embrace a little bit more of that. Now, they may be more hesitant now, seeing, all the drama in the Smash community, for instance, over the past few years. Maybe that has given them cold feet in regards to everything. But I do think it'd be nice to see them engaging more with their fan base. I remember I grew up in the era where they had I have a hat for it around here somewhere. The Nintendo Power Fest, I think Nintendo Power Fest, where you would go to malls, you could compete in games all across the country, and if you had a high score at that location or overall, they would invite you to a final one. It was basically the Wizard in real life. It was amazing, and I actually participated in one, and I was on the top of the local leaderboard for a day or two or whatever. But they used to do more of that than they do these days, even. And it'd be fun that they return to that kind of more grassroots.
Ooh, I got some lore for that. I think this is my older brother went extremely far in a Mario Kart Double Dash.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, won all these different hats and hoodies and things, and went to the Northeast thing. So
this is an official thing from Nintendo.
This was an official thing.
Tom, why do we not know about this, Tom? Where were we?
I don't know. Should have been traveling the country.
And I was this close, guys. At the first one we did, he came in first, I came in second. So we were right there. We were right there.
Andre and I have to take on you and your brother at some point then, I think.
Yo, he was good. He was nasty. Jesse, shout out.
We need our online Double Dash stat.
It was his birthday this week as well. Happy birthday.
Oh wow,
Jesse.
man. Busy birthday week. Jeez.
Yeah. Back to back.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so exactly, that speaks to my point though. Exactly. We need more of that. Cammy HBK has a comment that I've seen throughout the chat saying E3 has been dead, fellas, before COVID.
Yeah.
The thing is, kind of. Someone actually specifically mentioned something I wanted to say myself because I experienced it. And the E3 has been on a weird downward, well, not really strictly downward, but a weird trajectory ever since E3 2006, I believe. Which was because it goes way back. This is where you start seeing the cracks in the E3 armor, where they downscaled it a ton. Where they literally held it in in an airplane hangar, I think. For one.
Didn't they have a whole bunch of hotels?
Yeah,
one year,
it was
and you went
spread.
To hotels. They did a hard reboot because it got too big, and they tried to limit it to really small.
Right.
And then the next year, I think they brought it back to the hall, but they limited it to like 5,000 people or something.
It was really small. They brought it back to the convention center, but it was only in one of the halls, I believe, or maybe even literally the hallways. I forget exactly. It was small though.
Oh.
And then from there, they kind of like started rebuilding it, but it never got to the point of what E3s used to be in like the 90s and early 2000s. So yeah, I mean these cracks have existed for a while, and the pandemic I think just accelerated everything. So do we think E3 can fully come back? I mean, we don't fully know how this E3's year is going to look, even without Nintendo. But like looking ahead to the next 2-3 years, Nintendo presumably has another system on the way. One would think. Like, do we think would that be enough to bring them back? And do you think E3 can recover and be more of its own, more of its own identity, I suppose, moving forward?
Yes.
You think so? Is that what you want?
I really do.
Yeah.
Kind of. Here's what I think. So I think E3 as a name actually has a lot of cachet.
It does.
Yeah. And I think like right now the big competition is Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest. And
he was on there with that tweet the moment when this whole thing came out like a couple weeks ago initially. He was right there.
And what's funny about, I think, Jeff Keighley's vision for Summer Games Fest is that I think Jeff is pretty much going in the exact opposite direction I want the show to go in. I think Jeff is very much attached to like a stage, doing a performance, like, and that I think takes a lot of work and investment and coordination that in the modern day and age is a little outdated. And I think he's chasing that dragon a little bit. I think E3 could come back because I think E3 with ReedPop is situated to do a more consumer-focused event. I think that's where their experience lies. I think people vastly underestimate the power of merch. And I know that sounds like a joke, but I feel like I've been told many, many times how much money merch can make. So I don't want to undersell that. This past weekend in Philadelphia, I went by the convention center and they were doing it was like Magic the Gathering something event was going on. And I was just walking by and I stopped and I looked at it and I like talked to my friends and we had a whole conversation. And then like in the areas around, they're like, hey, here's some Magic themed cocktails. And I was like, man, this is kind of cool actually. And it's just something like that where I was like, there is an energy here. There is a proven template to how this could work. And I actually think because of the amount of money video games have and because of their growing public cachet, that they could really become the standard in this arena if they wanted to. It takes a vision. It takes a vision. It takes a Jeff Keighley style kind of leadership of somebody really wanting to do it this way. And that's the thing. I'm not sure if that exists. I think people are maybe a little too attached to the previous vision of E3. And that's the question. Is somebody ready to blaze that path? That's what's on my mind. Yeah.
I guess what we'll find out is if there's room for a video game convention in June these days. Because, we already have PAX East and PAX West or PAX Prime, wherever it is now, in September. So now you have 3 different shows, but to have one giant show, is that needed? Like before, it was to show basically video games that retailers should buy at Christmas. And now, like, the timeline is much closer, or people want to hold back announcements. And then there's going to be, as you said, Summer Game Fest. Like last year, I think it was Jeff Keighley kind of bringing in press into a small event. Like, will he want to try to bring in public too in the future? If the two push each other to new heights, or if one just completely kills the other, I guess we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Rob L says GameXplain Expo 2024.
Oh.
That will be something.
You go around with a magnifying glass because there's little tiny booths, and then you can go see it.
I love it. That'd be like how at the new Marvel land at Disneyland, they have Ant-Man walking around in the little miniature version of the land it replaced being Bugs Land. It's kind of amazing. So
if I'm ever at an event like this, by the way, the bit that I would want to do with GameXplain fans is I would like to do a find Jake, and if you find me, I have like a little trinket that I give you, like a little Nintendo gold coin or something. I think that'd be really fun. That would be my bit.
That actually would be awesome. Okay. I like that idea.
Really a tuft of Gritty's hair.
Exactly. Yeah. You win. Congrats.
Jake just plucks a hair from his head for everyone. Here you go.
There you go.
Oh, we got
I
Tris
guess
in
we'll
the
see,
chat.
Hello, Tris. We'll see if E3 evolves to a place where people want to go there. Like maybe Nintendo's likes what they see this year and they go back next year in the future, or maybe the plans just align better. We'll see.
Do we think it means anything for Nintendo's library this year? I know we touched on it briefly, but do you think that's a legitimate concern that maybe there is nothing else of substance beyond Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4?
I have never believed this rumor. This Nintendo doesn't have heavy hitters thing. To me, is the ultimate. Oh, but caveats, asterisks. It's like, because first off, like, we've got a Pokemon Presents on Monday. What are they doing? Like, that's Pokemon. That's its own thing. That doesn't count. And then it's like, true. I just feel like this whole the Switch is gonna have releases going up to and through the release of the Switch successor. So when you're saying, oh, Nintendo, and also like, you got Tears of the Kingdom coming out in May. I bet you there's gonna be DLC. When's that first DLC gonna come? Probably in the fall. and like Splatoon is getting updates. That's getting like a big story campaign. It's like, and I think the question is like, will there be like a big like $60, maybe $70 release in the fall from Nintendo following the release of Tears of the Kingdom? The answer is yes. Period. I don't believe that the answer is no. I straight up think people are just like lying to themselves. I don't know what this delusion is. This thing that happens every single year without stop. Yeah,
I fully agree. I mean, first off, there's a fact too of like, if Tears of the Kingdom be your benchmark for like what's a heavy hitter, like then there have been like no heavy hitters since Breath of the Wild. You know, it's
correct.
It's such a meaningless statement almost in and of itself. And I also agree with you, Jake, too, to the point that I think we're going to be getting Switch games even after whatever the Switch successor actually is out. I think it'd be foolish for Nintendo to fully drop a system with their biggest install base of all time. The stupidest thing in the world they could do is to cut that off entirely. And especially because Nintendo's history with transitions to next systems is not good. It's not great. Right. The Switch is one of the few times it actually bucked the trend of going downhill. So I think if I were Nintendo, I'd be like, I want to ride this train for as long as I can, you know. And yeah.
So what's everybody working on? Is everybody just chilling right now? And it's like, because Metroid Prime 4, that's still up in the air. And I feel like we've still got Mario Kart courses coming out, but like we have all these different teams that have been doing something. The Super Mario Odyssey people are doing something. And it's like, if they don't have heavy hitters for the rest of this year, which I don't believe, it doesn't mean they don't exist. And I also feel like, didn't we hear about like Metroid Prime Remastered was like finished and it was sitting somewhere it was just like, they were just waiting for the right time.
For up to 18 months, almost.
So who's to say that there aren't games that these rumors, that whoever's the originator of these rumors, that there are games that are finished that are just chilling somewhere, and come the fall, that's when these will drop, and it's like, oh, we didn't know about those. Turns out those were done for that. Those have been done for a year. There's so many caveats to this. This is one of the worst rumors we've ever had. Well, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. We had those. Do those not count as heavy hitters? I think people would be pretty happy to see those.
There's also the point too. I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the source of that quote was basically, I assume, a Nintendo employee. Like, it's being relayed to the person who reported it by way of internal employee. And I don't know what position this employee may have been or not. I do know that Nintendo is like very strict internally, to the point that like internal teams don't even know what other teams are working on. Even marketing wise, they don't know all the projects, and they use like code names for everything, and you don't even know what other people are aware of. So unless a person's like at the top of the food chain, like unless their source like Bowser himself, there's so many asterisks on the thing. I just don't buy it at all. But yeah.
On those notes too, like we got Game Boy, that was rumored for a long time. What's rumored now? Like Kid Icarus. So maybe that comes out later. So.
It's so funny, dude. I feel like the rumors are all, here's like 10 things that are rumored, but also the rumor is that there are no games. It's like, all right, like thank you for these beautiful rumors.
Ridiculous. No heavy hitters, Jake. That's what that means. No heavy hitters. Yeah,
no heavy hitters.
It's like Miyamoto was interviewed recently and asked like, where's the next Mario? And it's like, he'll come when he's ready. Like, when the time's right, they're going to show whatever they're working on. Like they're always working on a Mario. They're always working on like their properties, testing things. Like they prototype everything. Like we'll find out when the time is right. And they're also trying to. I think they're trying really to keep their game announcements really close to when it's actually releasing. It feels like in a lot of them, not having it too long, unless for a few key titles like Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. It does seem to be their go-to model these days, and it has been for a while, where they have like a big title or two that they announce years in advance. Beyond that, it's pretty much like you find out about 6 months before it's coming out at most. And I'm mostly fine with that. Like I know it's been a long wait for Tears of the Kingdom, but it's not like there hasn't been things to play since they announced that, and I've been fine with it. It's like I mean, of course I would love to have played it the week it was announced, but I've been busy and it's been fine, and it's been kind of fun knowing that's been on the horizon. Like, oh yeah, we got that coming out, and now it's almost here, which is crazy. So,
and I think that's what it comes down to too. Is like I'm in no fear of there being things to play on Nintendo Switch. Absolutely no fear. I feel like the Switch is killing it right now. We've got games coming out like this week that are bangers on Switch, and like Tears of the Kingdom. It's one of those things where it's like, what is the frequency of heavy hitters that you need to be happy with your console purchase? Like, what are we talking about? If Tears of the Kingdom comes out and another $70 Nintendo Switch game does not come out this year, am I supposed to be upset? You see what I mean? Like if a Mario game doesn't come out, is that well, I got Tears of the Kingdom, guys. That's my favorite game of all time. But the fact of the matter is, the October rolled around, no big game. I'm angry. Like, what is this?
Even more New York, Jake.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, it's Thanksgiving. What am I supposed to have for my stuffing?
Like, sure, I got all these sweet classic games on NSO. Sure, I kept getting Mario Kart courses. Sure, I got Pikmin 4. Sure, I got Advance Wars and Metroid Prime Remastered. Like, are you kidding? This is I see no universe in which we look back at this year for Nintendo Switch and are like, kind of a weak year, guys. No universe in which that is the case.
Yeah, I mean, especially for a game in which like people are going to spend hundreds, if not thousands, of hours. Tears of the Kingdom is going to be an investment, barring barring it as not being a complete disaster, which I cannot imagine it will be.
Whoa there, Andre. We got one person in this discussion who put a big bet on Tears of the Kingdom being below 85 on Metacritic.
Wait, was that Jake? Was that Jake?
That have happened. So,
oh my God,
in
Jake!
That scenario, in that unlikely scenario, maybe then people are like saying Nintendo should add another big $70 game. But
I'll be honest. I don't know what I was huffing at the end of 2022.
Do we need to start drug testing here at GameXplain? Is that?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it could still happen. I don't know. Maybe you're making a vehicle and you have to spend hours in a menu, and that's just awful. But I don't know what I was thinking, man.
Okay,
your vehicles break down. You take them into a mechanic shop, and you wait for a week until they come back.
Right. Oh,
there are a few hilarious chats to me in the chat. Neoxer says Jake throwing facts after facts, but I think that's before Jake started going on about this other thing. Because Valentine just says Jake okay, which I love. I just Jake okay, and then
all right.
Triss says yeah, Jake, you felt confident on that low score until the last Nintendo Direct. LOL.
But that's why Jake did it, because Jake didn't know about it. It's like Joey's saying, we don't know much about Tears of the Kingdom, and we still. Andre is saying earlier today, that's kind of our first look at the actual game and gameplay itself, really, like the first trailer. So
yes, upcoming future discussion spoilers we haven't posted yet. They'll be coming up tomorrow, so you can watch what Tom's referencing right now. So
stay tuned. I'm foreshadowing so people get the hook to come back.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Do we have any other thoughts about Nintendo not being at E3? Like, it sounds like it feels like to us this doesn't really matter much. Like, it feels like this is not good. I mean, if Nintendo thought it would matter to them, they would be there. That's what it amounts to. Like, clearly they don't think it's going to matter for their release of games this year. So I guess real quick, do you think they'll be there next year? I want a commitment from you. Do you think Nintendo will be at E3 2024? Assuming it doesn't get canceled.
I'm marinating, Tom. What do you think?
I think they Like they said the nice things about the SA to leave the foot in the door. Their foot in the door is to come back next year with maybe, especially if somehow there is new hardware later on that that's the big thing that they don't want to show. So I'll say yes, they will be back next year in some capacity, especially if the other guys don't show up. Well, then perfect opportunity for them to steal the show if Microsoft and Sony aren't there.
I actually think no. I think if I really had to like put my sounds like money on the table here, I think I would say Nintendo will never do anything related to E3 again. I just feel like the company, I just feel like the company is going in a direction right now where, in a weird way, I almost think they think that they're like too big for E3, and it's like E3 is about gamers and Nintendo is about everyone, if that makes sense. I they can just do it on their own. I think the amount of I don't think they have anybody over there right now who is really like in a leadership position and enthusiastically campaigning for a specific vision for E3, and for that reason I don't think it's going to happen. Which is like a bummer, I guess, but it's not like I personally like hate the way that Nintendo does things right now. I guess this is so weird, but I guess I've been thinking a lot about the Pokemon company recently and how much I actually really I think I like the way that they run their brand. And like right now in the lead up to Pokemon Day, they're like making it a big deal. And like my friend like tweeted out a bunch of pictures of them at these different Pokemon events and talking about like how Pokemon changed their life. And the official Pokemon Twitter account was like, "Love this. Can we put it on our website? Put it up in this big collage." And I was like, whoa, dude. Pokemon brand out here, like cultivating the masses, making like Pokemon cool for those people and serving their fans in that way directly. I would really like to see more of that, I guess.
Mario Day should be a bigger deal. Nintendo should be making a bigger day out of Mario Day. Make that its Pokemon Day, and I think you're right. It's interesting. Yeah, Pokemon actually feels like the more personable brand right now. Is that the more relatable brand. It feels like there's always in the conversation, they're always doing cool things with the community, whereas Nintendo feels a little, I mean, you could say this kind of throughout the Switch era, I would say, especially after the first year or two. It feels a little bit more corporate. Like, it feels like a step back from like the more like the fun side of things. Not that they're still not fun, obviously they are, I think, but like, I don't know, the directs aren't as personal, for instance, aren't as personable, I guess. They're more, they feel a little bit more just like marketing, like, I don't know. I don't fully know what I'm trying to say right now, but I don't even think it matters that much. But
I think Kyle Bossman had a good point on one of his videos lately, where it just cut into like, how was that? Let's move on to the next thing. Like, there's less of the stories. Right. Like that in the
I will say, even with that, Tom, I said this on Twitter yesterday after the Sony Direct, the State of Play. I appreciate Nintendo at least has those. It helps disguise the fact that you're just looking at series of trailers. It helps make it feel like a little bit more of a cohesive whole rather than just bam, trailer, bam, trailer, bam, trailer,
it's kind of weird. I feel like the Nintendo has decided that the way to talk to their core audience is through Nintendo Directs.
Yeah,
that is their, you know what I mean? That really is their direct line. And I feel like they talk to everybody else through like literal commercials. I don't know when the last time you guys watched network television was, but I'm seeing a lot of Nintendo Switch commercials out here. So
YouTube, I noticed them again. I think they kind of pumped the brakes on commercials in the beginning of January, and they started up again after Fire Emblem.
I know. I've seen Switch like pop up in like TV shows too, like movies and TV shows. People just like playing Switch, which was, I'm sure, paid for by Nintendo, and that's something I don't recall seeing much of in the past. So.
The Switch has a level of market saturation right now that is almost hard to believe. It's everywhere. Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, it's crazy too, just getting to the sales success, even though PS5 just recently overtook it in terms of weekly sales in Japan. But like in terms of overall success, the Switch is absurd right now, and there is like a real possibility it could possibly outsell the PS2 to become the best-selling console of all time, which is wild considering that it's just a game console. There's pretty much nothing else, unlike the PS2.
Oh, do you know how close it is? Do you know offhand?
I think it's 30 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say high 30s. I think.
Oh man, just gotta get that Zelda OLED out here. That'll.
Oh, I thought you were fact checking. I thought you knew. So.
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Do you think Zelda want to push over the edge? Maybe.
Zelda OLED. Yeah.
There we go. Cool. All right. Anything else about E3 that we want to talk about?
More opportunities to have a costumed Mario come up to me and say "Wahoo!"
Especially after how good the costume is at Super Nintendo World. It's an amazing costume. So
more, yes.
Tom,
cool.
I think Nintendo, like what Jake says, though, if they did grassroots events too and stuff like that, I'd love that as well. More spread out throughout the year. E3 was a great time to meet people, have a whole bunch of people from all around the world come in and see different developers in person or hear the stories, see neat announcements. But slowly with things like the live demos on stage, because things like motion capture not working, things like that going away, it slowly lost some of its spirit. Hopefully this one this year will be a good step in the evolution to keep it going in a new way that's relevant.
Yeah, man, I'm truly a level of psychopath right now in which I'm like, they've given you the reins. How do you do E3? And I'm like, I'm actually seriously thinking about this in a way that's probably unhealthy. But like I just feel like there legitimately is something that is being missed right now. And I even wonder is this cool or lame if you do a like E3 happens and you're there with like demos or whatever, and then maybe like the following week or the following weekend, you can go to one of several malls in the country and experience like a mini version of what was just at E3.
They used to do this. Nintendo used to do this specifically. They used to have Best Buy kiosks. You could literally play the games we were playing at E3 at Best Buy.
Yeah. Damn Nintendo. Come on.
Right? That actually is a great idea. I mean, it kind of speaks to what we were talking about earlier, where they just released the game demos, on Switch. Though I think, as Tom was saying, there's concerns of like data mining and things of that nature. So I think that would be a good middle ground. I mean, I think, actually, that is an awesome point, though. I think expanding that idea would be genius. Don't make it just Nintendo, or not just Nintendo. Make it an E3 focused thing, like these little mini E3s, like the satellite E3s, where you don't have to be an E3 for. You can go to, I don't know, Toys R Us or whatever. If that's still around, and play the games there. Yeah. GameStop.
I feel like there's such an opportunity for events that just does not happen right now, and I think that'd be so cool. Like, is it so hard to ask for like maybe you go to this Nintendo event and you are there and you get like a pin or a ticket or something and it has a number on it, and then at the end of the day there's like a raffle and they give something out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that'd be so cool. Just like a dumb reason to have you show up there and post about it on the internet or be like, oh, I got this sweet E3 edition of the Nintendo Switch OLED. It is signed by the Red Pikmin. That'd be, you got the Red Pikmin signed in Switch? Yeah,
dude, what's kind of cool? At Super Nintendo World, one of the things they do is they basically have their own form of achievements where you can unlock stamps in the app by doing things in the park, getting high scores or finding secrets. And that's something they can almost lean into in real life with events like this. Like, hey, you go here, you get the special, stamp or whatever it is. And that'd be neat. Like, maybe each location can have its own. So, collect them all, travel around the country for...
Here's one for you. Every single person that comes to this is the E3 event that I'm running. Every single person gets an envelope with the Smash stamp on it. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
And in that envelope is a 1-sentence secret about something Nintendo is doing right now. All of them are fake. All of them are fake except for one. But there is no indication as to which one is real.
That's an awesome idea. I love it. Like, it's so rare that Nintendo like intentionally teases something, right? So that would make it even more fun, like which of these is a real thing they're making.
And it's like a game. Like, you have to coordinate with people and be like, okay, what did yours say? What did your
That's clever. They go to Reddit or Twitter and they try to like piece it together. But real quick, Tris let us know that it's 35 million is about the difference right now.
We were almost right on, so that's pretty
close,
Yeah, that was great. Well, that is really close. I think they can do it. I mean, I think they can do it, especially because I think even after the successor comes out, they'll probably keep selling Switches. I think they can close that gap. I think the Switch might become the most successful console of all time, and that is crazy to think. So
I'm still thinking about the envelope thing. You just open it up, and it's like, oh, Waluigi is getting his own game, and it like talks about the game, and now in your heart of hearts, you're like, there's a chance. There's a chance Waluigi.
Only I know this. I have to tell the world.
Yeah, exactly. Only you know. Only you know if it's true. And you're like, I didn't tell anybody. I thought it was too stupid.
So, Jake, on that note, you could have something like special tickets where, like, maybe there's an event like a Smash Invitational and you get to go in. Like, I remember one of the things at E3 one year that I loved was when the Wavebird came out. They had Mario Party. I think it was a Mario Party. They had a spin wheel.
I remember
something like that. And then you got a chance to go to a stage to play Mario Party to win a Wavebird. I was so close to winning a Wavebird. There was like a tie in the last one, and then I lost to the next. The pressure got to me, but things like that are super fun at events.
Yeah, totally. Love stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's a memory.
And there'll actually be a better back when that happened. That was back in the purely press days. That'll make so much more sense now for a more consumer focused show. Where you have your fans actually there, potentially winning things. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some people in chat be like, E3 should just die. It should just go away. And I'd be okay with it, honestly. To your point, Jake, like, it's such a strong brand, like, it's so well entrenched that I think you can salvage it. I don't know if they will or not, and I don't particularly care if they do or not, because the things that I care about being the game announcements are going to happen regardless one way or the other. But I do like your idea of, like, if they are able to engage the community more, maybe there is something there. But then that's already being filled by shows like PAX and the PAX is in other smaller shows too. So it is hard to think, like, is there even a place for really a place for E3? Can they find what that is? And yeah, I don't know. They stuck around this long. Maybe they'll just last forever like a cockroach it can't kill. But
how is Nintendo, I don't think, ever been able to really galvanize the amount of hype that they get on social media from something like a Nintendo Direct? I feel like Nintendo does not do the social media game. I bet you. Does Nintendo have a TikTok? I bet you know.
Wow, I have not come across it. They do, yeah.
I bet you they don't.
I think it's because, it kind of speaks to what we were talking about earlier. They're just so conservative, I think. I don't think they are capable right now, or not capable. They are not willing to do the kind of riskier things. I say that very loosely. You need to do on TikTok to get engagement. Like, I think they're so brand conscious that they are fine letting other people do it for them. I don't think that they can do it themselves. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are on TikTok. I don't know. But I feel like you're just going to get safe videos from them that never step out of line, never do really anything interesting, because that's what they do. That's what they know.
I looked it up. Nintendo does not have an official TikTok.
Yep.
Pokemon has like 12 official TikToks.
Oh, so here's actually a great point. Pokemon, was it a TikTok? Was it TikTok?
Yes,
yeah,
it was.
Yes, they made a major, mistake.
Swear word one.
A few weeks ago, where they basically hopped on a trend without realizing what that trend is. And you know what? They survived. It was fine. No one cared,
If anything, it was good.
If anything, it was good. I mean,
Yeah.
You could even argue, I think some might even say that there have been mistakes like that in the past that were purposefully done. They, things companies do that will get engagement. And obviously I don't think we want Nintendo necessarily doing that. We don't want them riling up people for no reason. But I do think that kind of speaks to the fact that Pokemon wasn't afraid. Like, they were quick enough to make it. They made that mistake, they learned from it, whatever. But I think it's good that they were willing to do that, because it showed that I think they have a good understanding of what they need to do on TikTok too. Like, how many followers do they have? Do you know? It's gotta be absurd. Probably millions.
Pokemon?
Yeah, on TikTok.
Let's see. The official Pokemon has 4.7 million.
There we go.
followers.
Exactly. They know what to do. I mean, I think I even see their videos pop up every now on my own feed, and I don't really care about Pokemon at all. So that really says a lot, I think, about how they know how to manage a brand of TikTok, whereas Nintendo would have no idea what to do on TikTok right now.
Okay, I gotta say, these are good TikToks. I'm just like scrolling through right now, and I gotta tell you, this guy this is bringing me joy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, this is a good TikTok. Why can't we have Mario and Luigi doing bits like this? I don't know. I don't think that's too much to ask.
We have maybe Jake. We have Sir Pigwithy, who says something I'm not going to fully repeat here for fear of misstating it myself. Who says we need more of a particular Wednesday from Nintendo.
Okay. So first off, that user is that's not the name of the Pokemon, though it is confusing. It's Wiglet. Okay, and I have also accidentally said, "Oh wait, but isn't that something in Mario?"
No, this is a Mario thing they're talking about.
Yeah,
it was a Mario tweet.
Mario, the yellow.
Yeah, it was an infamous Nintendo mistake they made where they dropped a key letter from Wiggler for Wednesday, and yeah, that became infamous.
Did it. They got too scared. Can't ever do anything risky.
I think that was probably it.
Who posted the Chibi Robo on fire?
I need to know. See, whoever did that, they were a mad genius. That was
put them in charge. Put them in charge right now. That person got it. They knew exactly what they were doing.
That was truly something special. Like, I mean, that rode the line of like antagonizing the community and being hilarious. They knew exactly what they were doing. That was like in an era when we had like we had no news what was coming up. People wanted a direct, and they just throw it out there. It was so good.
So good for thumbnails later on. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
Triss says they knew what they were doing in the moment because everyone was freaking out. Oh, I know for 100% they knew what they were doing, or whoever tweeted that knew what they were doing. I want to know the story behind that. Like, where is the expose on that? Like, why is there not behind the scenes break? Like, we've had this for other brands, like Oreo with their tweet during the Super Bowl blackout, was it a few years ago or whatever, or I think it was when the Super Bowl lost power and they did a tweet that blew up, and like the level of approval had to go to in like rapid fire time. Like, we need that from Nintendo. I want the behind the scenes of how that worked at Nintendo for that tweet.
Yeah,
so
closest after is that Waluigi Rose tweet or whatever it was with that render that we hadn't seen yet. So.
Oh, that's right. Yep. All right.
Sorry,
go ahead.
So yeah, we could wrap it up. But I think my point here, I think the thing that this discussion has taught me is that I feel that Doug Bowser does not do enough. That is my take. I almost am like, I feel that this is I'm talking about the Nintendo of America responsibilities right now. I'm just a small human being. I don't really know what their whole breadth of responsibilities are, but I do feel like that they could do more like America specific things here, and I don't think it would cost anybody anything, if I'm being honest. So yeah.
On that note, Reggie was quite a trailblazer in wanting to meet the president of Nintendo before being hired by Nintendo, and everyone's like, what the heck? Like, no, you can't talk to it. And then he managed to pull it off and had a great conversation that was longer than expected at the time. So I mean, maybe that's the difference. Reggie maybe was a higher level.
I think that makes sense, because you have to imagine 90% of that position is probably just making sure this list of things gets done. Yeah. And for your region, you know what I mean? Like, what is it like? Is it weird for somebody to have this position and go to the boss and say, I want to do this thing we're not doing right now? Yeah. I bet you that is super weird. And I and it'd be cool to see more of that, because I think Nintendo is one of the biggest like properties in the world with some of the most recognizable characters in the world, and it is so weird that they don't act like it. It is so weird.
I mean, I think that kind of speaks to just their heritage, especially with being a Japanese company. They're actually very modest, and that's this is part of some of the things I've heard like behind the scenes. Like they don't tend to like really brag, or they're not all that in your face about certain things. I think it owes a lot just to their roots in Japan, and like if you look at their corporate office, in Japan, it's just like it looks like a hospital.
Cute.
It's like it does not look like a fun place to work, And I think that's just because that's just due to the culture of the company. They just don't like putting their products everywhere. I don't know. It's weird, but obviously on the one hand they are about that. That's how they market things. On the other, like they're very kind of just hesitant to do things, I think, and how they're perceived. So
do you see Crest of Honor 23 in the chat really quick? Nintendo needs to sell their music. Something I've never previously thought about. Maybe a week ago, the soundtrack to all of the Kingdom Hearts games showed up on Spotify, and you best believe I'm over here in between news updates losing my mind to the Kingdom Hearts soundtrack. Okay, like, yes, little things like that where I'm like, yeah, why aren't you out here, Nintendo? Get out here. Yeah.
Real quick, Joseph says Doug gets compared to Reggie too much, who was a unique president in that he became the face of things. I bet Doug does plenty behind the scenes. Oh,
I
definitely.
agree, Joseph. I'm sure it's a super busy job, probably long hours.
I was lucky enough or fortunate enough to run into Doug Bowser at Super Nintendo World. Super nice guy. Got a quick photo with him. But yeah, Reggie was kind of like one of a kind in that he basically invented the meme. He was a meme before he was a president. So I think I kind of like set him on that trajectory. And to that point, Electric Video Gamer had said earlier, I miss Donut Bill. I miss Reggie Fils-Aimé. Yeah, see, it was the era in which Nintendo was failing that we got the most fun presentations from them, you know, and I think that was also partially because of, or if not entirely, or largely because of the leadership at the time being, of course, Reggie and also Iwata, a very unique combination that we may never get again. So,
man, if I had not literally spoken to Bill Trinan during like a couple of previews towards the end of last year, I would have thought he was not at Nintendo anymore.
Yeah, he has kind of.
Yeah,
we haven't seen a whole lot, and maybe that speaks to the lacking E3. But that is generally where you would see him. It would be at E3 to have a big presence there, whether it's translating or giving game demos, and with them effectively being a no-show for 3 years now, then I think that's part of why we haven't seen a lot of Bill. Or the videos get deleted, like Tom when I took on Bill in arms.
I know, that's such a memory. And there's like a moment, Jake. So basically, we had Andre's laptop with like, we had the laptop camcorder like recording the footage, and I see the battery all of a sudden like go to like low. I'm like, oh no, and I'm handing the camera to the ladies, to like an attendant there, so I can try to plug in the laptop somewhere, and I see Andre or Bill like give a look like at the camera later for the footage that was recorded, like what's going on, because they knew something was up, and yeah. The power went off. We lost that one to tie.
Oh, so sad.
Andre won though.
That's what matters. I beat Bill in arms before I was.
Well, we could keep this going forever. We could also just throw some arms up, get some matches in. But I guess we should wrap it up, man. Nintendo, what a crazy group of Goombas over there.
Yeah. Yes, very indeed. So in short, Nintendo being at not being E3. I don't really think it matters one way or the other too much at this point. We'll see what happens next year. I never answered the question whether I think they'll be there next year or not.
Oh yeah.
My brain says no. My heart says yes. I feel like there's still
trying to be positive.
I feel like they still have like an attachment to them that if they think they have a slate strong enough to show next year, I think they will be there. But I also in my heart, but my brain's like they know they don't need E3 anymore and they won't be there because why spend the money to be there when you don't need it? So we'll see.
Totally.
In short,
and
we know nothing.
Shout out to the 145 people that are currently waiting to watch the next Mario movie trailer on Nintendo's, which is still upcoming live.
I can't wait to see that. We'll be there streaming it too. So not 2 weeks early like these people are, but it'll be fun. I can't wait. So we will be there on Monday though, streaming Pokemon Presents at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern. So only a few days away. All right.
Hyped.
Everyone, thank you for watching our rambling and meandering discussion on Nintendo not being at E3. Stay tuned for more from us. I'm still rambling. Just stay tuned for more stuff. All right, everyone. Catch you later.
One more thing.
Wait, is there one more thing? That's it. We're done.
Time to ramble aimlessly.
Exactly. All right, bye, everyone.